Ever since I started making videos about Fallout New Vegas, one of the most frequent requests I get is to make a playthrough of it. Let's plays are something I was never interested in, so I put it off for years, but since I'm ending my channel soon, I thought it was about time to give it a go. Although instead of a classic playthrough spanning 100 episodes which no one would watch anyway, I decided to put my third adventure through New Vegas into one video. Yes, this is only my third time playing New Vegas, since once I started making modding videos about it, I didn't have any urge to play it normally. From what I remember, my last serious playthrough was in 2011, and I played the NCR and Yes Man route. So for this one I went with Legion. I also didn't use any mods, so that I could once again experience the unfiltered vanilla New Vegas, with all its bugs, crashes, and questionable gameplay mechanics. So without any further delays, let's begin. After making the most generic white protagonist ever and talking to Doug Mitchell about my feelings, it was time to head off to Goodsprings. It felt kinda strange just walking through town without trying to find the perfect camera angles or weather that I usually had to do when I was recording mods. I went to saloon and met my boy Easy Pete, then got inside to see Trudy and Sunny Smiles. Since I needed to get some weapons, I went with Sunny to hunt geckos. I also wanted to spice it up a little bit, so I stole her rifle and watched her fight barehanded. After returning, I saw Cap talking to Trudy and got my first real quest. Originally, I wanted to do a full evil playthrough, since I was siding with Legion, and those guys are not known for their good intentions. So when I was doing this quest, I thought I would side with Dynamite Boys, but I just couldn't do it to Goodsprings. This place holds a special place in my New Vegas heart. So I beat them all to death with Sledgehammer and moved out. I could go with the classic Prim, Nipton and Novak route, but that would be boring. So I decided to go north through Quarry Junction and Black Mountain. Everyone always talks about how hard it is to pass through there, and I wanted to test that out. So I started at Goodsprings Cemetery, made my way to Yangtze Memorial, and was close to Sloan when I got attacked by more powder gangers that certainly did not like that I killed their friends. Over at Sloan I stole anything that wasn't nailed and went further north, despite everyone warning me not to. At first I was a bit scared of what I was about to see, but honestly, there are barely any creatures there. Mojave is generally empty, and except for one young death cloud that tried to rip my balls off and I tried to loot that body next to him, there wasn't a single danger anywhere. I got to Black Mountain and met up with Neil, who warned me about Tabitha. I'm sure I butchered her name right there, but I was interested in her anyway. What piqued my interest though was this small valley on the way to the top that looked like it could take me straight to safe haven of New Vegas. I went there and got attacked by a few bear traps and some boulders, so I shoved a few stim packs in me and ran through it. At its end I was greeted by strip lights and was getting closer to my destination. But first stop on my way was Repcon. Here I took a guided tour and tried to explore as much as I could. My low level was a bit of a problem here, since I couldn't lockpick a single door, and I also couldn't hack any computers, so after aimlessly searching for around 30 minutes, I left. As I was making my way to Freeside, I checked out Sharecroppers Farms and made my first contact with New California Republic. I like NCR, mainly because they are the only faction that Obsidian developed properly, and they have some interesting quests and characters. But I wanted to mainly focus on Legion, so I won't be taking too many quests from them. I also took a look at Aerotech Office Park and decided to help out with a few errands. Then it was finally time to get into Freeside. After I got in, I checked my game time. I was playing for 2 hours and 30 minutes, got to level 4, and was already very close to strip. This never happened to me before, and it was fun trying out a new route instead of going with something I'm already familiar with. It was the most fun I had in New Vegas for quite some time. I was also surprised by how easy it was, and the rumored hard route north wasn't as hard as everyone was making it out to be. No cazadors, deathclaws or any other horrifying creatures tried to stop me. It was also clear that Freeside was not made for a level 4 courier. My first objective was to get to the strip, and for that I needed 2000 caps, so I had to take on some of the missions available here. I talked to followers of the Apocalypse, Mick and Ralph and Garrett Twins so I could earn some caps. Unfortunately, most missions here are oriented around dialogue, and if I wanted to succeed without using my own money, I needed high levels of speech. Well, as you can imagine, at level 4 it wasn't that great, so I had to move over to West Side and complete one of the quests that I took in Aerotech. What got me excited about it is that I didn't remember it from my previous playthroughs. It was a case of missing people, and I was supposed to find out who was behind it. Turns out it was this pair of scumbags, so I delivered some light justice and went back to North Vegas to pick up another quest. At first it was pretty mundane. I scared off some squatters, killed a bunch of hobos, but then I had to find a girl who got involved with a group of sketchy people. My search eventually led back to Westside, where I met a lovely ghoul, who turns out was just scamming the poor girl out of her parents' money. Here I had few options: tell girl the truth, help out the ghoul, or help myself to her money. I didn't feel like playing good guy all the time, so I decided to manipulate the girl into killing her own mother, after which she had a mental breakdown and I took the 1000 or so cabs they had. A bit evil, but hey, at least I can go to strip now. But before that I managed to level up my speech and complete some of the free side quests, including the one with infamous Fisto. And no, I didn't try him out. Freaks.
Please assume the position.
Anyway, let's go and move on to strip. Victor stopped me and asked me to meet Mr. Vegetable, but my one and only objective was Benny. So I went to the tops and found my boy just chilling in the casino. I also learned that Benny was voice acted by Chandler from Friends, and I never noticed that before, which I thought was pretty cool. But no matter how cool you are, if you shoot me in the head and don't even invite me for a second date, I'm gonna be upset. After luring him into his apartment, I tested out Benny's skull, but it looks like his is not as thick as mine, so I took the platinum chip with me and went to Lucky 38. Here, Mr. Mustache tried to convince me to give him back the chip, but I didn't want that, so I had to kill all his Securitrons with my shitty weapons and coward tactics. Then I infiltrated his sacred bat cave, but I didn't kill him, because that wouldn't be cruel enough, so I disabled his gaming chair, and now he couldn't do anything. My strip adventure was complete, and I wanted to try out some backwards exploration. What I mean by that is that originally you're supposed to go to Prim, Nipton, Novak, Boulder City and Freeside. And since I went to Freeside first, now I went to visit all the previously mentioned locations, but in opposite order, and see if anything different happens. As I was exploring Wasteland, I got my first crash, around 5 hours in, which was really surprising. I expected one a lot sooner. I also picked up Veronica at 1A trading outpost. Anyway, I got to Boulder City, only to immediately dunk on its memorial, which Kowalski did not appreciate. Inside the city I met the Great Khans, and I hoped I could have different conversations with them since I already found and killed Benny. But the dialogue does not change, which is a shame. To once again spice it up a little bit, I promised to help them if they free the captives, only to kill them all as soon as they did it. I never play evil characters in any RPG, so this was new and fun in its own way. As I was moving to Novak, I met my first Cazadors, and thank God I had Veronica and her power glove with me. I didn't do much in Novak since I wasn't interested in its quest, and instead kept on exploring Wasteland. I noticed that, like I mentioned before, it was surprisingly empty. There are barely any enemies, NPCs or interesting locations scattered around. I guess that is why there are so many popular mods that add some life into Mojave. Eventually, I reached Cottonwood Cove and took boat to the fort, Legion's main stronghold. Climbing up to Kaiser's stand was fun at first, because I got to see soldiers' daily life, slaves, kids training, and it was all interesting stuff, but once I decided to side with them, that climb got annoying quickly, and a fast travel point to Caesar's stand would be great. My first stop was the arena, where I beat some poor souls for entertainment, and then got to meet the man himself. Kaiser is an interesting person. He has a lot to say about Vegas, other factions, and his philosophy. It is good to have a villain character that can explain their motivation, and that it makes sense when you look at it through his eyes. Talking to him, I learned that I should never cross him, as there are some options that can get you killed immediately. I also thought he was a bit of a douchebag, and to be honest, I didn't like him very much. He asked me to destroy Securitrons under fort, so I went there and did just that. I could also side with the S-Men here and activate them, but that would automatically make me an enemy of Legion. After that, Kaiser wanted me to meet boomers, who were way off my current destination, so I told him, sure, I'm definitely gonna go and meet them soon, and went in the opposite direction. I still wanted to continue my backwards exploration, to see if I missed anything interesting or if anything different would happen. Unfortunately, nothing changed, and it also doesn't make much sense, since everyone is pretending that I was never in Vegas or met Benny, which is not true at this point. Eventually I made my way over to Nipton and met with Vulpes, who talked as if we met for the first time. Meanwhile, I just took a quest from him 20 minutes before that. I also met everyone's favorite lottery man, and Veronica quickly showed him that he wasn't that lucky. At this point in game, I noticed that if there is one part Obsidian developed well, it is dialogue. There is just so much to talk about, and almost every minor NPC has their own story and opinion about situation in Mojave Wasteland. On one hand, it is great to be able to speak with anyone about anything. On the other hand, I got kinda tired of it 10 hours in, since some of the opinions repeat, especially if you talk to persons from same faction or settlement. We continued our adventure south, and eventually got to Mojave Outpost, where I helped out a bit and moved on to Prim. But before that, I got lost on racetrack and got ganged up on by the ants, where Veronica saved me once again. In Prim, I decided to save Beagle and get some must-have info on Benny. Inspired by Veronica's display, I decided to also try out Power Fist, and man, it is fun to be an unarmed build in New Vegas. This thing slaps. But unfortunately, Beagle got lost on upper floors of Bison Hotel, so I had to go and find the new sheriff in Powder Ganger's hideout, the NCR Correctional Facility. Remember when I said it with Goodsprings? Well, these boys certainly do, as they started shooting at me as soon as I got near their place. So I massacred them all. Originally, I wanted to do their quests as well, since I never helped them in any of my playthroughs. But oh well, what can you do? Maybe next time. So I got the sheriff and moved back to Freeside. Here I helped out King with his NCR problems and got Rex. As I was making my way through King's quest, I noticed that speed checks are really just an insta-win option. Whenever there is one of these available, you always get the best results, and they throw any effort you would need to otherwise make in order to get what you need right out of window. I don't like that very much, because it makes leveling anything else outside of speech feel useless. I mean, why should I invest in barter or repair if I can just click an auto-win option each time? And with a game that is heavily based on dialogue, it takes out all the fun out of it. I know that everyone praises Obsidian for making skill checks matter, but to me, it feels like they focused a bit too much on speech. Around this time I also met some interesting characters. First one was Little Buster, who reminded me of every tough guy you met at any gym or club. It was fun talking to him. I also met Hildern and got to hear his famous quote.
Too many people have opinions on things they know nothing about. The more ignorant they are, the more opinions they have.
I was also trying to find and complete as much Legion content as I could, but there is barely any. Legion has maybe 5 or 6 side quests, and that's it. They're extremely underdeveloped. There is the Arena quest, one where you have to find a teddy bear and howitzer mechanics, help out Vulpes with some spy shit, and the only good one is I put a spell on you. In NCR playthrough, you're supposed to find out who is leaking information to Legion and disrupt their plan. In Legion playthrough, I actually had to help out Legion spy to accomplish his goal, which was to blow up the monorail. I got to frame a different guy for it, kill him, plant the bomb, all while pretending to be on NCR's side, which was all very cool. I just wish there were more quests like this one for Legion. One thing that didn't work out perfectly was me killing poor Private. I just couldn't do it without everyone finding out it was me, even when I was using Stealth Boy. After finding out that there is literally nothing to do outside of main quest for a Legion only playthrough, I decided to do some other quests as well, otherwise this whole video would be 10 minutes. Anyway, I helped Crimson Caravan as their delivery boy and met Cass. It was about time to give Veronica her well-deserved break from killing ants, and so I took Cass with me. After I was done with Crimson Caravan, I explored a bit more and did a few other quests that I wanted to do or you guys recommended. First one was Camp Golf, where I met the 4 misfits. My quest here was to whip them into shape or make them even worse at their job that they are now. I chose Ladder and talked to Glasses Guy about forging some documents. But I also talked to other members and by accident I activated Maggie's quest to make them better sharpshooters. Well, now that there was no way back because my saving style was not very good and last normal one I had was few hours back, I had to go with it. But I also didn't have enough points in my explosion skill and I didn't want to invest in them, so I couldn't progress. Well, I guess that's it for Camp Golf. On my way there I also saw a train station infested with deathclaws. By this point I thought I was hot shit and could handle them, but nope, I got reminded who the apex predator is very quickly. So I traveled into opposite direction and visited Camp Searchlight. Here NCR asked me to get them plans of next Legion attack from Cottonwood Cove. I wasn't about to betray my brothers in arms, so I got some old plans from my Legion pals and gave them to NCR profligates. Town itself wasn't interesting to me, so I moved on to my next destination, Jacobstown, because I had to fix Rex's brain. Around this time I also discovered that there is an auto-walk option, which made my life a lot easier, game more enjoyable, and I could do other stuff while I walked, like eating or scrolling through Twitter's horrible takes. Before I reached my destination I made a few stops on the way, some of which I quickly regretted. Eventually I got to Jacobstown, met with Marcus and Dr. Henry, who told me I needed to kill another dog and get his brain to fix Rex. So I went back to Ford and got Lupas all the brain, since by this point I was fanboying for Legion. Next up I helped Cass with her quest. When I was killing old Crimson Caravan lady, I found out that you actually need to use silenced weapons to be sneaky. Who would have thought? I guess that's why everyone knew I blew poor Private's brain over at Camp McCarran. One graphs were a bit tougher, but at least I got to steal all their stuff and try out some good energy weapons. Now that Cass is my best friend, it was time to return back to Black Mountain. I convinced Neil to help me out and took on the super mutants with Cass and Rex. With my new Van Graff's weapons and some other stuff I found, it was not that hard. Eventually I made it to the top, where I tried talking to Neil, but it seems like he got bugged and I couldn't progress this part of questline. Oh well, I guess we're doing this alone. So I killed the rest of mutants and confronted Tabitha, who didn't want to talk with me, so I killed her as well. Later I found out that there is a robot in shed that could probably help me out with her, but like I said before, my saving game is not exactly perfect, so I couldn't try out again. Anyway, my main reason for going all the way up here was Raul, since who doesn't want Danny Trejo as his companion? But my science skill was not enough to free him, so I thought that I would come back for him once it's good enough. But I kinda forgot. After that I went back to Camp McCarran and did the Fiend's quest for Sergeant, because I remembered that I had fun playing it. And now I know why. It's because I get to kill a lot of Fiends. Exploring west part of Mojave filled with these degenerates is always a treat, since there is a lot of them and they're easy to kill. So I feel like a Terminator annihilating them. I killed all 3 targets, remembered that Legion really doesn't have any good content, and traveled to Novak so I could complete Come Fly With Me. This is one of those quests that always gets praised, so I was interested to see if it was still as good as everyone makes it out to be. Well, not really. I mean, its story is interesting and there are some fun characters to talk to, but it is pretty standard. Go here, talk to this guy, then talk to this crazy guy, then talk to this funny guy, with you going on fetch quests in between. Don't get me wrong, it is one of the better quests in New Vegas, but I just found it a bit boring. This is also my main problem with most of New Vegas' quests. Most of the time you are just walking back and forth between locations, talking to random people and fetching random things for them. Now that wouldn't be a problem if the wasteland itself was fun to explore, but it is so empty. It is one of the most boring open worlds I ever explored, and saying that it is a desert is not an excuse. It's a goddamn post-apocalyptic wasteland, it is not that hard to make it fun. Just look at Fallout 3. Its capital wasteland is so much more atmospheric and full of cool locations. I felt like I was wasting time going through it when I could be exploring worlds that are 100 times more detailed. Around this time I also noticed technical problems that Vanilla Vegas has. I had a lot of crashes, and I also couldn't load up my saves without the workaround, which isn't something a 10-year-old game should have problems with. With that said, most of side quests I wanted to check out were now done, so it was time to return back to main quest. Boomers are located in northern part of map, and if I wanted to get into their base, I had to run through their artillery. Surprisingly, I made it on first try and got to talk to Pearl, their leader. Boomers are out of touch old people that live in their home and think they are hot shit. Wait a minute. They asked me to help them out, and since Kaisar wanted their support, I did just that. First, I went over to the museum, where I had to listen to the equivalent of the mandatory high school presentation that no one listens to or cares about. Right after that, I helped 2 lovers who were basically stalking each other, which I guess was kinda cute. Then I helped a young lady with ant problems and old man with his antenna problems. During this last portion, I also visited Helios 1, and my only goal here was to meet Fantastic. But I couldn't find him. I guess my intelligence isn't that high either. After that, Boomers thought I was a good guy, so they had one last quest for me. I had to race an old plane from bottom of the ocean. During my descent, I also found this underground cave which piqued my interest, but there was exactly nothing in it. Yeah, I was just as disappointed as you are. All I had to do to raise the plane was to put some explosive on its bottom, and voila, it was up. So now that Boomers loved me, I returned back to Kaisar, who was just as douchey as before, and sent me to make alliance with White Glove Society. These guys are former cannibals, and my mission was to get them back to this beautiful type of lifestyle. For that, I needed to help Mortimer get a human for a special dinner. Beyond the Beef is one of the best quests in New Vegas. And you wanna know why? It is the only one where you use the grab mechanic. No, but seriously, it is a lot of fun. You can do a lot of different things and have different approaches, depending on what you want to achieve. If you want to be extra evil, you can even make them eat your own companion. I thought about it for a second, but I need Cass to carry my useless junk, so I kept her. For now. And it is also not a fetch quest. Turning society back to cannibals made them Legion supporters, and so it was time to return back to my least favorite leader and ask him what he wants next. Now he wanted me to destroy Brotherhood of Steel. Well, this one is gonna be a bit awkward. First thing I did was take Veronica with me so she could let me in their bunker without any problems, and also so she could witness destruction of her whole family. After talking to Elder, I went through Bunker's labs to check out this pretty self-destruction terminal, and I was still missing few points in science to get it, but I was also very close to leveling up. So I decided to do the only logical thing here and stealthily shoot a few scribes in the head and get my science to 100. Also, screw this terminal minigame, I never really liked it. So I activated self-destruct, and boys and girls from Brotherhood were not happy with me. As I was running away, Veronica noticed that I just killed everyone she knew and was disappointed with me, leaving me and running off deeper into the bunker. I was surprised she didn't turn hostile and try to kill me. With Brotherhood destroyed, I once again returned to Bald Man, and this time his gigantic brain couldn't handle his stupid remarks and he passed out. Turns out Caesar has a brain tumor, and it is up to me to fix it. There are a few options that I could go with. First one is to sell arcade Ganon into slavery, which is what I wanted to do first. Unfortunately, if you're a friend of Legion, he will no longer follow you, unless you already have him with you. Next option is to do the operation by yourself, or fix the autodag in Kaiser's tent if you have enough skills. But that is boring, so I decided to go with third option and visit Vault 34 to find parts for autodag. Before that, I made a quick stop at Nelson and Camp Forlorn Hope. By this time, NCR was already hating on my drip, and so I couldn't do their quests anymore. Instead of that, I talked to Dead Sea, who mocked me and asked me to kill everyone at Forlorn Hope if I feel like it. I'm not the one to turn down any challenge, so let's get to it. Camp had pretty good defense, but they were no match for my never-ending supply of stim packs and 2 sandbags who ate most of the bullets for me. I also met most of First Recon here who helped me with Fiend's quest, and so I finally got my hands on La Longe Carbine. This quest once again showed how little content there is for Legion. If you side with NCR, there are like 5 great adventures ready for you here, but only thing Legion gets is a cheap slaughter. Let's get back to Vault 34. This was my favorite vault when I first played New Vegas. I remember that I accidentally stumbled upon it when I was like level 10 and got my ass handed to me, and I barely made it out with radiation poisoning, but also with some cool gear. Yeah, it was good even this time. There are a lot of ghouls here, radiation, good backstory, and only downside was that I got lost a lot. So much that I even had to stop recording and spend 15 minutes just finding my way to Overseer's office. But that was probably because my monkey brain couldn't handle more than 2 possible routes and I didn't notice huge signs that pointed to it. In the end, I got a lot of gear, autodag supplies, and went back to save Kaiser. But like I mentioned a few times, I don't like him. So when it was time for operation, I made a great art piece out of Kaiser's brain matter. I got out of it thanks to speech insta-win check and continued on as if nothing happened. Next up was one of the best missions for Legion and one of few unique ones, Arizona Killer. My goal was to kill President Kimball, and once again there are tons of ways on how to do it. I can kill him when he arrives by brute forcing my way through his security, make Howitzer shoot down his helicopter, snipe him from a rooftop, and a few more. I went with Howitzer, and I don't know why, but everyone started to attack me after that, so I still had to fight my way out of there. But it was a lot of fun. And that's it for Legion. I was shocked by how underdeveloped their campaign is. I knew that it was unfinished, but holy shit, there are like 3 unique missions for them and nothing else. Seriously, it would have been better if you just couldn't join them, because this is just embarrassing. Next up was final mission, Battle for Hoover Dam, but before that, there was still a few things left to do. First I paid visit to Boone. His quest and story are great, and I like him, but in a Legion playthrough, there is no place for that, so he had to die. After that I hit the DLCs. I didn't care too much about edginess of Ulysses, and even though I wanted to meet the man behind the memes, Joshua Graham, and see his sick pistol animations, I wasn't about to trudge through boring honest arts just for that. What I wanted to get back to was Old World Blues, to see if it was as funny as I remembered it to be, and play through Dead Money to see if it was as hard as everyone says. Well, first up was Dead Money, and I have to say I did like it a lot. Sierra Madre has perfect atmosphere that balances between horror, post-apocalypse, and luxury that was here before the war. Horror mainly comes from the fact that you don't have any of your equipment and you start with nothing except for a hollow rifle and some rags. So at the beginning I had to scavenge every single container and pick chips off the ground so I could survive, while also evading ghost people who can only be killed by decapitation or if you tear off their limbs. Eventually I met my first companion, Doc, and things got a lot easier. He is optional, so you can still explore Sierra Madre on your own if you want. Gameplay was a real breath of fresh air, and story was pretty good as well. Father Elijah is a great antagonist, who is foreshadowed in base game, and the 4 companions you meet, God, Doc, Christine, and Dean Domino, are great. They all have distinct personality and background, along with different perks and styles of play. Only thing that pissed me off was the ending section, that got a bit out of hand with clouds, strong enemies, and radios that made my head explode. Trying to find that one spot where you don't hear that beeping was a pain in the ass. But overall, I really enjoyed Dead Money. It is probably my favorite DLC out of 4. Next up was Old World Blues. All I needed was the opening conversation with scientists of Big MT, and I was sold. Yeah, it is still as funny, and I still love it. But I was kinda done with New Vegas by this point, so I didn't finish it. A great DLC though, and if I had to recommend one to play, it would be this one. So final thing left to do was to finish Battle for Hoover Dam. I finally got to meet the biggest Legion chat, Legged Lanius, who was just in the middle of crushing heads when I arrived. He told me to take over the dam, so I went with a small squad of Legionnaires to do just that. I mean, I understand that this game was made for older generations, but at least a few more soldiers on both sides would be cool. Anyway, I shot my way through few waves of NCR soldiers, told Oliver he sucks balls, and killed him in his office. And that's it. My ending slideshow was kinda depressing, with Legion just annihilating everything that stands in its way, and barely any of my companions survived, or were happy in the end. Hey, but at least Boone finally met his wife. And I guess that's it for my New Vegas playthrough. Overall, I was kinda disappointed, to be honest. I think that it is because I did the Legion playthrough, which is the most underdeveloped and boring faction of New Vegas, and maybe if I said it with NCR or Mr. House, I would have more fun. But even if I ignore Legion's flaws and don't look at it through glasses of someone who played it for years, it is still not a perfect game. Don't get me wrong, dialogue and characters are great, and there isn't a single Fallout game with more complex characters and storylines. But the world is extremely boring to explore, and its quest design is unique only in a few occasions. Plus, its technical side is still horrible even after 10 years. One of my personal pet peeves is that I can't run, that nearly drove me insane. But maybe I'm just hating on it too much, since I spent unholy amounts of time in it and can't appreciate it that much now. But I have to admit that it is still a very good game, and a must play for any RPG fans out there. I would be very interested in Obsidian's take on another Fallout. It might be better now that they and Bethesda are under Microsoft. Maybe now they would get enough time and budget to make it as good as they want it to be. And yeah guys, I guess that's about it, so I hope you enjoyed this video. I know that I didn't post anything for like what, 4 or 5 months, but I was finishing my school, which is now finished, so I'm happy with that. And originally this video was supposed to come out between the exams I had, but I just didn't have time to properly finish it. To be honest, I started working on this at the beginning of May, I think, like on the 1st of May, and I only managed to finish it now because I just had extremely long breaks in between. Now, because of that, the last video that I wanted to finish by the end of summer definitely won't be finished by then. My deadline for it is the end of the year. Hopefully I can do that. Well, you know, it all will depend on my free time and stuff like that. But yeah, once again, I hope you enjoyed this video. I wanted to replay Fallout New Vegas because everyone always wanted me to make a playthrough of it, so I'm glad I did it. It's one of the last videos I make. So now that we are nearing the end of my channel, I can finally talk about the final video, which is going to be a history of Fallout New Vegas modding. What I want to do is just basically go through all the years of Fallout New Vegas modding history and talk about interesting mods that came out in that selected year. And I wanted to go year by year, you know, from 2010 until now. And I really want to, you know, pick up some of the interesting mods, some of my favorites, maybe, you know, put some trivia in there and stuff like that, and just edit it out. Hopefully I can make that, but there is a slight complication here. I'm not sure if you guys noticed, there have been some troubles with Nexus. A lot of modders have been pulling their mods out of it, and that really complicates stuff because I originally wanted to use Nexus as my source for mods. I know that not all the greatest mods are there, but there isn't any better source. But with so many authors pulling out, it might be a bit problematic. So if you guys know of any site where I could check out like all the mods that were ever released there, or if you have any way of letting me know which modders pulled out their mods so I could, you know, check out their work and see if I wanted to, you know, include some of them, then let me know. That is really important because I mean the main part of this video is going to be research and just putting everything together, and hopefully I can record footage without any problems and stuff like that. So yeah, like I said, I mainly need the mods themselves, and if half of them are not on the Nexus, it's just not gonna be as good as I want it to be. So hopefully you guys can help me out with that, or maybe the Nexus situation will be solved out by the time I'm doing the research and the mods will be put back, but I don't know, it's really complicated. I'm not really paying attention to it. I only saw like one video about it from Mr. Matty Plays. Other than that, I just saw, you know, a few tweets and stuff like that, so, you know, I'm not gonna talk about it because I'm not well acquainted with it. But other than that, I hope you're looking forward to the final video. I'm also going to be making a post in the community section talking about all this and about the final video, so make sure you check that one out. Once again, I hope you enjoyed this video. Leave a like if you did, tell me what you think about it in the comments, subscribe for more Fallout and other games content, and I will see you next time.